Thanks, Sophie. You're watching Southeast Today. Our top story tonight, a Colombian family who fled a deadly drug cartel in their home country now face deportation from the UK. 3 arrested as a community mourns for the teenager from a children's home in Deal who died after being stabbed on a bus.
I've lost an angel. Kenyan did not deserve to die this way.
Fresh hope for a Hamas hostage. The Brighton man hoping a ceasefire will see his cousin's safe return. We're live in Westminster, where a meeting of hostage families has been held. Comedian Angela Barnes comes back to her roots in the southeast on tour with her latest show, Angst.
We do things differently. Bickering.
And serving up dishes and disagreements, the cook and the Corrie star bringing their unique food tour to Sussex. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Ellie Crisell. A Colombian family who fled to Kent seeking refuge from a deadly drug cartel now face the threat of deportation to their home country, a move they fear could cost them their lives. Luisa Rodriguez and her 3 daughters have been living in a hotel room in Ashford since arriving in the UK in 2023. They were forced to leave Colombia after Luisa's husband, a police officer, refused to cooperate with a drug gang. The family says the rejection of their asylum application is utterly incomprehensible, as Charlie Rose reports.
Celebrating a birthday at home in Colombia. This family had no idea they would be ripped apart. The children and their mother fleeing to the UK following deadly threats from a drug trafficking cartel. Luisa says when bullets were fired at her house, she knew she had to escape.
Someone was in a motorbike when the girls will go to the school, and after that someone shot in our house, and that was the last incident, and after that they came here.
Luisa says she and her children were targeted because her husband, seen here in a family video, is a police officer who refused to cooperate with the Gulf Clan cartel. The arrest of its leader in 2021 weakened the gang, but its campaign of crime and terror hasn't stopped. The Gulf Clan is the largest criminal network in Colombia, and the country's government has been using guerrilla tactics and airstrikes to try to bring them down. For years, armed groups have used weapons and violence to control civilians' lives. At the height of Pablo Escobar's power in the 1990s, 7,500 people died in the city of Medellin in a single year. Luisa and her family fled to the UK in 2023. Her children have been attending local schools. She says her father has lived in London for 20 years, but Luisa's now been told her claim for asylum here has been rejected.
They say that we can come back to Colombia and live in another cities, but one of the cities that they suggest is Cali, and this is one of the most dangerous cities in Colombia.
I mean, Colombia is an enormous country. It's a big country, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't there a safe part of Colombia you can go to?
Not for us. Not for us, because...
Why not?
Because this group operates in all the country. And this is the reason that we are not safe in any other place.
Luisa says she's appealing against the Home Office's decision, which means her case will be heard by an independent tribunal.
At that stage, they may be declared as appeals rights exhausted. However, there are further avenues that they can pursue. It might be that further material comes to light that gives them a higher prospect of success, and they could therefore pursue what's called a fresh claim.
But for now, with Luisa's husband tied to his job in Colombia, the family are separated, hoping to be reunited and settled in the UK. The Home Office told us it doesn't comment on individual cases.
Well, Charlie is here now. So, as you said there, the Home Office don't comment on individual cases, but you have seen a letter they sent to Louisa, is that right?
Yes, setting out their reasons for rejecting Louisa's asylum claim. The Home Office says her husband stopped working in the area where the problems with the gang were taking place. They say there's been no further communication from the gang since the last threat in August 2023, and they argue Colombian authorities will give the family sufficient protection. But Louisa insists that wherever the family goes in Colombia, the gang will find them. The immigration lawyer we heard from in my report says many Colombians facing similar dangers have made successful asylum applications, asylum claims here and in the EU. Now, Louisa wants to speak out. She wants to raise awareness of her case. She says she wants to stay here, she wants to settle here, and she has a lot to offer society here as a trained nurse, she says.
Charlie, thank you. 3 people have been arrested in connection with the death of a teenager last week who lived at a children's home in Deal. A community vigil was held for 14-year-old Kellyanne Bacassa, who was stabbed on the 7th of January on a London bus, as Juliet Parkin reports.
A community coming together to remember a young life. Teenagers gathered at a vigil last night in a church close to where 14-year-old Kellyanne Bacassa was killed. A young life taken far too soon.
My son didn't want to die. We were looking forward. We were growing together. We were just loving each other. He didn't want to die. Although he was going through difficulties, yes, he was, but he wanted to live.
Kellyanne was travelling on a bus when he was attacked just over a week ago. He'd been taken into care and lived in a children's home in Deal in Kent. His mother said he'd been groomed by gangs from the age of 6. Criminal gangs are behind the drug-dealing networks known as county lines, where vulnerable young people are targeted to help with supplies. Kent police say there are around 45 active county lines they know of. 15-year-old Dijon Campbell was stabbed to death in September, not far from where Kellyanne was killed. His mother had met Kellyanne and says communities need to come together to stop more children dying on the streets.
My mum always said it takes a community to raise a child. And that's what we need now. We need a community to come together to prevent our children being hurt on the streets.
And he's alive, as in he's a child's life. It may not be your child, but he's someone's child.
2 boys aged 15 and 16 have been arrested on suspicion of Kellyanne Bacassa's murder. A 44-year-old woman has also been arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. This community's message is the loss of young lives cannot become the norm. Juliet Parkin, BBC South East Today.
With reports of a ceasefire in Gaza agreed, a Brighton man whose cousin is currently being held hostage by Hamas says he's hopeful they'll soon be reunited. Amidst the collective grief and hope for peace, Adam Marnett spoke to our reporter Claire Starr about the ongoing trauma of the conflict in the Middle East and the deep yearning for the safe return of loved ones.
Desperate for their loved ones' return. Hostages in Gaza for 467 days. Tonight, reports that a ceasefire and hostage deal has been reached. Adam Marnett from Brighton longs to be reunited with his cousin Saki. He was taken in the Hamas attack on Israel 15 months ago.
It's been an emotional roller coaster from hell. I feel guilty sometimes just sleeping because I worry that I might miss some crucial news and wake up to some either horrific news or some wonderful news. And I've been living like that for the last 467 days, and so has the rest of my family.
50-year-old Saki Idan was taken from his home by Hamas gunmen. His eldest child, 18-year-old Mayan, was shot dead in front of him in the attack. The family haven't heard from him since. Each week, a group holds a vigil outside Parliament calling for the return of the hostages.
It's important for the world never to forget, and also for the world to understand that there are hostages, 9 hostages with a British connection, 1 British citizen, Emily Damari, and it's important for people to realise that these people were at a music festival, they were from their homes, and they were kidnapped, and we've had no sign of life from them. With the youngest one turning 2 years old this weekend, and the oldest one being 86 years old, and we have no sign of life, and we just want to bring them home.
After almost a year and a half of conflict, negotiations through international mediators seem to have reached a conclusion. Family members of hostages tonight gathering in Israel, anxious for news. News Adam has been desperate for.
We have been here before, where we felt like the prospect of a deal was imminent, and then had our hopes raised sky high and then dashed on the rocks of despair. But it's also important to be guarded and cautiously optimistic, because everything could fall apart and we will be back at square one.
Trying to keep their loved ones' plight in the forefront of people's and politicians' minds. An international conflict with very personal ramifications.
Well, Claire Starr joins us live from Westminster this evening. Claire, we're hearing news that this ceasefire deal in Gaza has been achieved. Have you had any reaction from Adam or his family?
Yes, it's clearly been a very fast-moving international situation this afternoon. But in the last hour, I've spoken to Adam, and he says that his family haven't had any official information, and he is in touch constantly with his family in Israel, but they don't know any details of the way forward. For instance, it's unknown how many hostages could be released imminently or over a longer period of time. Adam says that he's concerned about his family's hopes being raised and then dashed once again. He says that tonight his family are anxious and afraid. For all the families of these hostages continuing to wait for news tonight, it's clear that that emotional rollercoaster they say they've been on for the last 15 months is only continuing.
Claire, thank you. 3 men alleged to have been part of a global people smuggling network moving migrants from the Kurdistan region of Iraq into the UK and Europe have been arrested. They've been linked to the same network as Amanj Hassan Zadeh, an Iranian national who dubbed himself the best smuggler. He was jailed for 17 years in November after he arranged Channel small boat crossings. An urgent fundraising appeal has been launched to secure the future of a Kent heritage railway that first opened in the mid-19th century. The Spa Valley Railway in Tunbridge Wells needs to raise £300,000 to replace the old steel Broom Lane Bridge. The bridge has regular safety checks which have revealed parts of the structure have corroded. Amid growing calls for more investment in roads across the southeast, there are claims the cost of bringing them up to scratch could exceed £1 billion. New figures suggest motorists shelled out £579 million last year after pothole damage to their vehicles. Meanwhile, East Sussex County Council says it needs £300 million just to patch up the most damaged routes. Kent County Council says it has a maintenance backlog of £1 billion, and Surrey Council's revealed it will be using AI to identify those potholed roads. Our reporters Chrissy Reedy and Peter Whittlesey took to the roads of the southeast today, hoping for a smooth ride.
The whole road down here is horrific.
Every morning on her way to work near Bodiam, Fiona Jack has to run the pothole gauntlet.
That one there was the one that did my car, and then you've got all these extra ones.
Unable to dodge the pothole because of oncoming traffic, Fiona burst her tyre and dented the rim of her wheel, but East Sussex County Council has refused to pay compensation.
They said that the hole wasn't deep enough that it went through, but it must have been significant enough for it to cause that dent. I don't know how that they can get away with that. I don't think it's acceptable to be able to say that that's safe. It's not safe under any circumstances.
To add insult to injury, Fiona has been reporting the potholes for months because her work colleagues have also had problems.
I spend more time in the middle of the road than I do on my side of the road, definitely. It's ridiculous. If someone would think you were drunk if they were following you. It's constant in and out. There's not one 50-metre stretch of road that you can drive in a straight line.
East Sussex County Council says the increase in potholes is because of more severe weather in recent years, and there isn't enough government funding to fix all of them. It's a similar story over in Kent.
At this garage in Tunbridge Wells, 20% of their business is damage to vehicles from potholes. This Micra came in yesterday with a broken spring.
If you imagine that popping out of there, going onto the brake pipe, ripping the brake pipe, damaging the tyre, which goes into tyres, it's a crash waiting to happen.
The garage say the cost of pothole damage to customers' cars is usually a minimum of £150.
If they fix the potholes, it would be terrible for the garages, but we don't like taking the money under false pretences because it's not fair on people, you know. We've all got families, the cost of living's all gone up, so it's just not fair, you know.
Kent County Council say they have a maintenance backlog of £1 billion.
You have to swerve out the way to avoid them and stuff like that, so yeah, they're bad.
Roads are bad here, I know. My husband's got an Audi 7 Series with low profile tyres. Well, I think he's changed his tyres I don't know how many times.
With warnings from the AA and RAC that freezing wintry weather will only increase the number of potholes, drivers across the southeast are unlikely to see an improvement on the roads anytime soon.
Chrissy Reedy and Peter Whittlesey there reporting on the thorny issue of potholes. Now, it is just after 7:15, a reminder of our top story tonight. Utterly incomprehensible. The Colombian family, fearing for their lives, question the decision of the Home Office. They face deportation from the UK, having fled a deadly drug cartel. Also in tonight's programme, laughter therapy, mock the week, and news quiz regular Angela Barnes comes back to her southeast roots on tour.
And it's been grey, cloudy and mild today. Tomorrow, still cloudy skies, but things not quite as warm. I've got the details in the forecast later in the programme.
Next to a dynamic duo serving up dishes and disagreements. One half made her name on cookery shows and reality telly, and the other became famous for his acting stint on the cobbles of Coronation Street. Now, Rosemary Schrager and Sean Wilson are coming together for a unique food tour, which arrives at the Hippodrome Theatre in Eastbourne next month. Oliver Whitfield-Miocic went to brave the heat in the kitchen.
God, you and I do things so different.
We do.
No!
We do things differently.
No!
Bickering, laughter and respect. Key ingredients for a good friendship and chaos in the kitchen. TV chef Rosemary Schrager and former Coronation Street star Sean Wilson are both food fanatics who want to share their wisdom.
I'd like them to look back at the show and go, oh my God, that was a great show. Bit bonkers, but oh my God, I learnt so much while I was there too. Didn't know this and this. And I think that's what they'll take away, and they'll get a chance to speak to us at the end.
Well, I think they'll go away thinking I've been through a hedge backwards, actually, and I need at least a day or two to recover from it. You must work fast.
Schrager's been
Very
cooking
well
up a
indeed.
storm on our screens for 2 decades.
Now be careful,
Originally
don't
from
cut
Yorkshire, she now lives in East Sussex and has a fond love of the area's local produce.
I think here you've got beautiful lamb, you've got lamb from the marshes, I mean, some of the lamb here is sensational, but for me, it's the cherries, it's the apples, it's the berries.
Audrey, Gail. Fellow Northerner Wilson is best known for his 20-year career in Corrie as Martin Platt.
I'd like to think it misses me more than I miss it.
He was so good on Corrie.
God, you've got to love Alpine cheeses.
After leaving the soap, Wilson pivoted careers to become a cheesemaker and a chef who believes in making dishes from scratch. He's worried too many of us are over-reliant on ready meals.
It's creating a pandemic. We're creating our own pandemic.
Yes, we are, definitely.
And it's important, but that's all down to food education, and that's clearly what Rosemary are trying to bring some fun, but we're going to bring some education. People are going to leave a little bit more educated.
So what advice do the duo have for would-be cooks?
Most important thing is, if you cook yourself, you can learn 5 dishes that are so simple that will take you no time at all, and that's all you have to do. No, stop doing that!
Yes, I'm doing that.
Schrager and Wilson's live show comes to Eastbourne next month and includes a cookery demonstration. Hopefully by then, they'll have agreed on how to chop an onion.
Follow me. There's a right way, a wrong way, and there's Rosemary's way.
Oliver Whitfield-Miocic, BBC South East Today, Wadhurst.
Well, now I'm hungry. In sports, the Hove boxer Chris Eubank Jr. is set to fight Conor Benn in their long-awaited showdown in April in London. Eubank, who usually fights at middleweight, has just one loss in his last 9 outings, avenging that 2023 defeat to Liam Smith later that year. Benn has not fought in the UK since 2022. If laughter really is the best medicine, comedian Angela Barnes is ready to invite us all for some group therapy. The Mock the Week and News Quiz regular is off on tour with her new stand-up show, Angst, where she shares her worries to make us all feel better. Born in Maidstone and educated in Brighton, she's very much on home turf, and she came into the studio to tell us all about it. Before we hear from Angela, here's a look at her in action.
Yeah, the shops on the seafront in Brighton sell buckets and spades. It's a pebble beach. The only way any castles are getting built on that beach is if they start selling bags of cement.
I don't want to live in a world without Lidl, do you? The surprise aisle. It's the best place on earth. Groceries, Argos has vomited more groceries. I used to live next door to a Lidl, right? And my then flatmate, he once popped into Lidl next door to buy some milk, and he phoned me from Lidl next door. He said, "Can you come and pick me up?" I said, "What do you mean, can I come and pick you up?" He said, "I've bought a drum kit." They're always so ambitious, aren't they? It's like, I want to swim with dolphins. I want to go to the Taj Mahal. It's the only thing I could think of that I genuinely wanted to put on my bucket list is that one day I want to put half a packet of biscuits back in a cupboard. I hate sport. I once got tricked into going to Wimbledon because my friend told me it was a men's singles event. That's not what I was expecting.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So nice to see you.
It's nice to make it onto the sofa at last.
And you're a proper Southeasterner, aren't you?
I am. I was brought up in Maidstone and I live in Brighton, so it's my region.
Yeah, it's your turf.
Absolutely.
And you're coming here with the tour. You're doing various venues, various places.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the material. The tour's called Angst.
It's called Angst.
I feel like it's very fitting for January.
Absolutely. We're all feeling a bit angst. If you're not feeling angst right now in the world, then something's wrong, I think. But it's more personal than that. It's a lot of my shows have been topical. A lot of it's been looking out, but this one's looking in a bit more because I'm how old am I now? 48-year-old woman. I know I don't look it. You're right, Ellie. 48, heading towards 50. And I'm in that sort of midlife zone, you know, where we all start thinking. Well, the Germans have a great word for it, actually, which is Torschluss panic, which is the fear of a closing gate. And I think that is sort of what it feels like. Oh, God, I'm nearly 50 and there's all this stuff I've forgotten to do.
Existential stuff, yeah.
Absolutely. But my agent wouldn't let me call the tour Torschluss panic because no one can Google it. So it's called Angst instead.
Tell us about, you're doing a couple of gigs in Brighton. One of them's a charity event.
It is,
Tell us about that.
So as well as my tour show in Brighton, I've got an event coming up. It's an annual event called the Big Cheer for Amaze. It's on the 4th of February. And Amaze are a charity and they work across Sussex with children with disabilities or families of children with disabilities or special educational needs and with young people up to the age of 25. So this year we've got Rosie Jones, we've got Tom Davis, we've got Joe Wilkinson, I'm hosting it, Mark Simmons as well, he's a Kent comedian, so again, nice local boy. So that's at Comedia in Brighton, but it's also streamed live on the internet, so if you can't make it to the show, you can go to a website that's called Next Up and they'll show you how you can watch it from the comfort of your living room.
Amazing. Well, best of luck with the tour and the charity show. Nice to meet you, Angela.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Time now for a look at the weather. Nina is with us. Oh, it's getting cold again. Oh, no.
It is, I know. It was warm today, but we did have pretty cloudy skies. It was grey, it was misty and it was murky. Our weather watchers were certainly out, and you can see in Herne Bay we had the mist and the fog really meeting the cloud along the sea. And as we go through overnight tonight, we are going to keep a lot of that cloud, so things not too cold overnight tonight, but gradually during the next couple of days those temperatures are dropping away. But with high pressure still with us, it's all pretty calm out there. Temperatures today did get into double figures. It was really mild. We can start to see we're dragging in some slightly chillier air from the near continent over the next couple of days. So not just colder by day, but also overnight. We could see the return of some nighttime frosts. But we will stay frost-free tonight with all of that clouds and mist and fog forming by tomorrow morning. And those temperatures beginning the day at around about 4 to 5 degrees. It is another pretty overcast day tomorrow. The cloud really dominating with light winds along the south coast. Just perhaps the hint of a little bit of brightness coming through every now and then, but really limited, and temperatures dropping a couple of degrees tomorrow. Not too far off average at around about 8. Then as we go through Thursday night and into Friday, we'll do it all over again with still this blanket of clouds, some mist and some fog forming. The air is starting to get colder, so it will be chillier first thing on Friday morning, but we're just staying above freezing at around about 1 to 2 degrees. And the cloud is gradually thinning through the day on Friday. I am more hopeful that we might just get a few glimmers of brightness on Friday. Still dry, still those light winds, and temperatures of around about 6 to 7 degrees. As the air is getting colder, the high pressure stays with us, and mist and fog could be more of a problem through the day on Saturday and even into Sunday. The high is with us, it stays dry, it stays fairly cloudy, but you'll notice that chillier feel in our outlook through the weekend. And although it stays pretty quiet, the weather into next week, at least there are signs that those temperatures just start to recover just a little. But certainly the warmest day of the week today. It's downhill from now onwards.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Nina. That's it from Nina and from me and from everybody. Rebecca Kenyon, though, is back with your late news update at 10:30. Bye-bye.